And anybody have any future agenda items? Seeing none, we'll just move on. Ermatinger House update, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Today, we're here to speak with you about the Ermatinger House. It is a historic property that is owned by the city and managed by the Community Services Department. We're going to talk today a little bit about the history of the Ermatinger House, where we're at currently with the property, and then what we have moving forward in the future for the management and operation of that facility.
I want them to be able to hear you, and I'm... Okay, now go. Sorry.
I'd like to also introduce Denise Conrad, who's the Assistant Parks and Recreation Director, and will be here to add to the conversation and present on a number of topics. So with that, to talk a little bit about the history of the Ermatinger House and where we're at currently, I'll turn it over to Denise.
So I know you guys are very familiar with the Ermatinger House. Frank being new, I'll just do a really brief overview of why this house is significant. 1977, the Ermatinger House was listed on the National Register of Places, and it's one of the oldest surviving structures in Oregon. It was built in 1844. It's a two-story Greek revival. And the significance of this house is that it was the home of the Hudson Bay Company's chief trader, Francis Ermatinger. It's also renowned for the coin flip that took place in the house between Pettygrove and Lovejoy to determine the name of Portland. So those are kind of the significant pieces that make this house historic and relevant. In 1910, it moved from the 5th and McLaughlin location to Center Street. In 1986, Ruth McBride Powers, who's a cultural heritage advocate, she had purchased and moved the house to a city-owned piece of property where it currently resides at 6th and John Adams. About 1987, the house opened for public tours, and in 1996, the house was deeded to the city. Marge and Rolla Harding were significant in providing living history tours in the house during its kind of being under the city venue. They've done a great job of advocating for this home and doing the living history tours and keeping history alive. I know that Rocky has been very integral in also being supportive of this house. And I think Rocky said he's been doing this for a number of years. I am terrible with names, but I know that there's some other folks here that should be recognized for their support as well for the Ermatinger House over the years. So we've had a true grassroots foundation of support for this house. Around 2010, 2011, we were doing some renovations of the house and found that we had some severely structural failures of the home needing to be addressed. So at that point in time, with the nature of these structural failures, we did red tag and closed the house for public. We did a renovation, restoration, rehab of the house as a project, and that did complete in 2015. We did, as you can see on this list, re-roof the building. We built a full-height basement and foundation because of the hydrology of that surface around the house. We were constantly having some water issues. So in order to address those, we were able to, one, put a basement in that provided some other storage capacity, and we can hide some of the mechanicals down in the basement, which are significant because of the way the house is under the historic preservation systems, and you hide everything that's mechanical or modern day. So a lot of those are all now housed. The big housing of the systems are in the basement. So we were able to hide those. We did add the ADA ramp and facilitate an ADA restroom. Some other really significant pieces were the stairs in the house. When you walked in the front door, you would walk into the stairway. Historically, we found that those stairs were actually flipped. So we did a lot of digging and fact finding to make sure that we were restoring and rehabbing this house correctly. So those stairs, that's a significant piece. Those stairs are now flipped and are to the interior of the house. There's seismic upgrades, and we put shear walls in the house so that we won't have the racking or movement of the house the way it's structured, because it is a public building. We did some electrical upgrades to the house, and a lot of those were due to the new mechanical systems that are also required in a public building. So a lot of things have happened with that building from literally the ground up. So in this picture, we're showing you the new tongue and groove which is the wood portions. And then that fireplace is the drywall and paint with a smooth finish. And then the restrooms is beadboard, and that got painted and looks beautiful. There's some other pieces that wasn't quite a finished product in that picture. The shear walls that we talked about because of seismic and making sure that it was code are that plywood board you see by the window. It's a little bit dark, but there's a lot of that on our exterior walls. And then kind of faceted in with that is the existing original wood structure of the walls. And then just a snapshot of the exterior, and the shutters are on the building in that photo, and all of the groundwork had been done.
So if you want to speak. So to date right now, so when the construction project took place, the structural components, electrical components, HVAC, all of that was updated. There was some finished work that needed to be included during the construction process, which was not included in the original construction because we were looking at some different options for finishes, and I'll let Denise maybe go over some of those, that process.
So in the project budget, we had about $18,000 to do the finishes within the house, which were spec'd out to be wallpaper. Unfortunately, while we were doing the construction and rehabbing the building, we found some severe structural failures beyond what we knew about. So shifting the project budget from some of the finishes to do at a later date, you can't really do the finishes without doing the structural components. We chose to move that funding over so that we could actually finish the house in all the structure of it. So that did deplete our finishes budget with the wallpaper, and that spec included muslin application and then a wallpaper application of replica time period wallpaper. So they were going to, the spec was to take pieces that they found underneath all of the other wallpaper and have those scanned and have replicas made. So they would kind of really evaluate and analyze that paper and produce something that was original. So with that, we did not do those finishes. But what we're proposing is, or actually what we're actually starting tomorrow, is the drywall and paint. So 7 a.m. our contractors are showing up. We're starting that project. That will save us from having to do the muslin backing, but we can in the future still do the replica wallpaper, and it will actually adhere better and retain itself maintenance-wise better, because you won't have little kids poking their fingers through. There's slats and there's holes and makes bubbles, and the kids like to poke their finger in there. So there's potential for us to save quite a bit of money in the future, but still have an end result product that is historic.
So we've been working with finance over the last couple of months to try to determine what funds were available, how we could reprioritize the projects and responsibilities within the Community Services Department in order to find the funds that were necessary to complete the construction project for the walls. The original bids, the original cost estimate that we got from the contractor who worked on the home was somewhere in the $9,000 range. We did contact the contractor to see if they would be willing to come and do the work this last fall. To my knowledge, they declined, or
They did
Yeah.
not respond after
So-
multiple calls. It's a drywall and paint is a small job in this day and time where construction is booming. So we have a very difficult time, not with just this project, but with any of our small projects, getting contractors interested and giving us responsible bids for these small projects. So it did take several months to contact somebody, enough people to make sure that we had responsible bids.
And when the bids did come back, they were a little bit more expensive than what we had anticipated. So, again, working with finance, made sure we had the funding available, signed the contract with the contractor that was available and the most responsive and met the criteria established. So that contractor is starting again tomorrow to work on the drywall, which will allow us to start the process of working on the development of the operations plan for the facility. So a little background on my time with the city and this project as a whole. I did, start work with the city last fall. Met very early on with the Hardings, and they did present me with a draft version of a proposal for operating the facility. We spoke during that time, and I let them know that we were still in the process of some construction that needed to happen on site, as well as my current workload being new to the city and wanting to make sure that I was understanding of all of the requests on my workload before committing that I would be able to address the operations plan of the Ermatinger House in the immediate future. The other piece, obviously, again, was the completion of the construction phase of the project in order to know that we had, one, the funds available to finish the construction, and then two, the funds to operate the facility. So during the last couple of months, as we have gone through and evaluated and made sure that we had the funding available, we've also been working with the city manager and with finance to make sure that we have funding available for the next biennium for operating the facility to be able to bring it up. Currently, we have, for example, furniture that's being stored offsite, which will cost us money to make sure that we bring the pieces back and locate them on site, and then to appropriately utilize the pieces that are selected, utilizing the partnership group that we will be working with in the Friends of the Ermatinger. What I provided for you in the packet of information included a strategic plan. So this was presented to City Commission in 2015. The strategic plan was a consultant was brought in and worked with staff members, members of the community, as well as stakeholders, and interviewed everyone from, again, staff to National Park Service to the Friends of the Ermatinger group. In that plan, they've detailed some suggestions for what that next step should look like for the Ermatinger House, which includes the items that you see listed on the sheet up there. So we have the governing structure. So again, we'll be working with the Friends of the Ermatinger, if directed by commission, to move forward and make sure that we have an appropriate governing structure. Preparing the building for use, which was step 2. We're in the process, again, of finishing that right now. Developing an interpretive plan. Part of the work that was completed during the strategic plan was to coordinate with Bill Hawkins, who worked very closely with the National Park Service to identify furniture that might be
Within the period of
significance for the home, which was determined to be the 1840s through the 1850s. So working with the Friends group and working with the strategic plan, again, moving forward, looking at how to develop the site in a way that makes best use of the facility and the most opportunity for interpretation at that location. And then moving forward, we would again want to develop a fundraising plan with the Friends group, and then a maintenance plan. And the maintenance plan only being the last item because most of the work has been completed within a short period of time, and any deferred maintenance issues would not occur until later on as we continue to operate the facility. In the short term, again, wanting to make sure that we have enough funds to operate the facility and do the ongoing daily and weekly and monthly maintenance that would be required at that facility. So in the short term, we are planning on having the construction of the walls and the painting completed before the end of the fiscal year, which would be June 30th. Working with the contractor, we are anticipating that work should be able to occur within the next 4 weeks or so, but knowing construction projects and the way things sometimes go, and this is, again, a very complicated project being a historic home, making sure that it's done appropriately for the era of the home. Moving forward into the next biennium, again, knowing that we will have a little bit of funding available for operations and maintenance of the facility, we can start taking that next step and really starting to work with stakeholders and those that are interested in the success of the Ermatinger House, and first and foremost, the Friends of the Ermatinger. With that, I will open it up for questions or comments.
Right, you have something?
How will the strategic plan that you have presented here interact with the tourism plan that is still to be implemented? And is there any kind of connection, and is Ermatinger intended to be a part of the big tourism plan?
Yes. So we have, Eric Underwood is very involved in the tourism plan. The Ermatinger House is the second oldest home, second oldest structure in the state. I would imagine that it would be very integral in the tourism within the city, and I know that all of the stakeholders for the Ermatinger House are very involved in that process as well, and would not let it slip under the radar as we're moving forward with the tourism plan for the city.
So do we have enough stuff to fill that thing?
We actually will have too much stuff.
Okay.
During the project, a furnishing plans was provided. So we have a furniture plan for the house. We have donated items that would be coming to the house that are specifically within the significant time period that we've established. And then the items that are within the storage unit would have to be sorted through for that period of significance, because there are a multitude of different eras. There were donation items from the Ruth Powers estate deeded with the house, and some of those were not of the period of significance. So there'd be a process to determine what steps to take with those properties that we own. And then the Hardings have some items that were in the house, and there would have to be a process for that if those come back in the house, because then it would be within city property. We'd have to do some papers for that. So yes, there's more than plenty at this point, and it's just a process of sorting them for the period of significance.
Sean, you got anything?
Well, it seems like we still got some balls in the air here, and I would like to, we're going to, I think, move forward with this, but like to have a review maybe in 60 days or something like that to see how we're doing, and a little feedback with each other, and especially with Commissioner I's idea about the tourism part of this, just how this is all going to come together. So I think that's it's kind of exciting.
So do we have any idea, any even estimate of what on an annual basis it would require to program and operate this thing?
So that would be a byproduct of whatever governing structure is worked out. There are, varying factors on an ongoing basis. To get it up and going will be a little bit more expensive than the ongoing maintenance of the facility, knowing that we probably will have some startup items that will be required, such as the initial moving costs, any signage package.
So I'm talking about on an annual basis, what is it going to take to have people in there for periods of time in order to be able to make it? Obviously, there's no way it's ever going to be self-sustaining. Mm-hmm. But so what's it going to cost us on an annual basis to operate this?
I don't know that I could give you a straight number at this point. I would say at least $10,000 a year to operate the facility.
Now you're just talking about power, water, maintenance.
Correct.
I'm talking about programming.
Correct.
What's it going to cost us to have the interpretive people there, the sales staff, or whatever it is, as far as gift shop or whatever you're going to do to try to, raise money if that's what you're going to do there?
So the plan would be, and again, utilizing the strategic plan, would be to work with the Friends group, utilize volunteer resources, put together a fundraising strategy, which would include, obviously the funds that would be necessary to operate the facility, and would go back into the programming of the facility. I'm sure that as we start that process, there would be an identification of, setting a budget, making sure that we were working within that budget. So again, that would be a byproduct of the working with the Friends group. If we were to operate it standalone without utilizing a partnership group, you're probably looking at least for operation, again, and depend on the level that you're operating at, probably $30,000 to $50,000 just to operate the facility.
Okay. Other questions?
So,
Yeah.
there's just two comments that I have. First of all, I want to acknowledge that Rocky Smith and the Hardings and others have been very clear on what that they've been working really hard to get this back open, and people coming through there again, and so forth. And I just want to acknowledge that's been recognized. And and on the other hand, I also recognize that you have been working really hard on the construction end of it and to get everything ready to go. Unfortunately, I don't think that the tour, everybody's going to be happy, as far as a timing, but it just seems like, at some point there could potentially be a soft opening where, things may be done and there may be a few volunteers ready to go and a plan somewhat in place to soft open, and then go work through some of those difficult things like you're talking about before a formal grand opening could happen. But as far as the timing of that just is all to be determined. But my other question was, as far as the tourism plan and the fact that the EOT and
We don't use acronyms.
Into the trail.
And the Oregon
I
Trail.
know, but Clackamas Heritage Partners, and I sit on that board now, and I've been doing a lot of listening at this point, and they're very interested in being a part of the entire process, and it could potentially provide additional staffing and volunteers and so forth for the house, or even just assistance in developing the plan. So I think since it's going to be mostly volunteer run, at least from what I think, there's a resource there that we can use to access more information or more people, more bodies to help with that. But just comments.
Commissioner O'Donnell, you have anything?
I do. If you can hear me okay.
We can more than hear you.
Okay. I break this project down into two phases, and I'm going to deal with them separately. We've discussed the long term. The house is done to perfection. Everything is historically correct. I want to put that on the back burner because that's the long view. There's something called time to market, and we're at a critical point in time. I know prior to joining the commission, former Commissioner Smith and others came before the commission, wanted to get this up in time for this year's Rose Festival. So my question is, if we were to look at this in the next 60 days, for what could we offer on June 10th to prepare for the Rose Festival, maybe engage in that reenactment of the coin toss? What we've got is a facility that's structurally sound, safe to occupy, safe to be in, incomplete. And I've been to many museums where there's been displays that were under construction. Could we potentially do a short-term solution just for this Rose Festival that would allow us to open with whatever's complete to allow people to visit? We can decide whether to furnish it, partially furnish it, leave it unfurnished. And sometimes those things, a friend of mine tells me they're called hard hat tours, where you come in and you see the thing during its construction phase. Maybe we can build some more support for the Ermatinger House and at least open it for this significant Rose Festival, and then have it staffed, some temporary arrangement to be staffed by volunteers, if only for a number of days during the festival, and then go back and revisit the longer-term solutions, which are more complex.
I can speak a little bit to, I know that there's a number of stakeholders in the community and the tourism industry that have been working on a Rose Festival event in Oregon City, the Oregon City Heritage Days. On June 23rd and 24th, we are helping to market that through our trail news, and that'll go out to all the homes in Oregon City. With construction projects, you never do know how long things will take, even with the best of intentions. I'm hesitant to commit fully to being able to access the house, the inside of the house during that time. But I have had conversations with Denise, and she's had conversations with the contractor to try to complete the project as soon as possible, which would allow us an opportunity to access the property as soon as possible. If we're in a position where we can allow access inside the facility during that weekend, I think that we can commit to working with the friends of the Ermatinger and volunteers to try to at least open the facility during those limited hours. I believe it's like a 10 to 5 on those 2 days, the 23rd and 24th. So if we do have the ability to do that, I think again that's something that we could try to make happen. But again, I'm hesitant to commit fully to that, knowing that we don't have a facility currently that is ready to open to the public.
I'm confused. So we built this place almost from the ground up, right? All the mechanicals are done.
Correct.
Walls are up.
Correct.
Roof's on. So what's left is sheetrock and paint?
Correct.
Then how can sheetrock and paint take 10 weeks? I've been in the construction industry for 25 years, and that's not a very big place.
It is
Frank
not.
and I could probably do the sheetrock in that building in a weekend.
Probably not to Rocky standards, though.
We can do it.
And that would be our intent, and we fully hope that it would be done much sooner than that. Again, planning for the worst, hoping for the best. We don't want to overcommit to something that might still be in process of painting, might still have a construction team in there working on the property. I doubt that will be the case. I would hope that we could say, yes, we definitely will open to the public during that time, and we'll commit to getting it completed as soon as we possibly can.
Commissioner O'Donnell, you have anything else?
I'm with you. I don't like to hear a bid that's either going to be done in 4 weeks or maybe 8 weeks. I mean, give us a number, watch the project, get it done. Let's get this thing open for a few days.
Copy that. Okay. I did have a messaging session with Commissioner Smith earlier today. We normally do not take testimony in work sessions, but out of respect for the work that Commissioner Smith has done and his commitment to the city, I wish to give him some time to speak if he so desires.
Thank you, Mayor, Commission, staff. I'm processing a lot of things in my head right now, and I guess staff did a good job answering a lot of questions that actually we had answers to 6 months ago. Nothing that you were shown today, really, other than the fact that there's going to be a contractor there in the morning, is different from when I was on the commission before. So I want to go back to, really quickly, the last meeting that I spoke at was the March 15th meeting, where I spoke at public comment time about my concern about the house. One of the reasons I didn't make a huge fuss about the Ermitinger house in the last few months that I was on the commission is because, according to staff at that time, we had a plan to deal with the walls, and the walls would be done first part of the year. So I kind of let that go, assuming that that would be done and there'd be a conversation sometime around now to get the house open for June, at least in some basic way. I'm concerned now that we're shooting ourselves in the foot, because if we're really just waiting for sheetrock and paint, then do it after the summer and get the house open this summer for a couple days so people can see the house, and don't. Now we're placing the construction project right in the time that we need to have the house open. It makes no sense at all. But at the last meeting, the mayor said we need to have, sooner than later, a work session. We need to get all the appropriate folks in the room, including the Hardings, Commissioner Smith, and whoever else, to hash this out and get a plan together. And then Commissioner O'Donnell said, we need to know what the city needs to forego to get the house open, and what we need to do to get there to have the house open in June. Then the mayor and Commissioner O'Donnell said, we agree that on that, and all that information should be available at the work session. Well, here we are. Here's the work session. We got a presentation about the history of the house, everything that we knew 6 months ago, no information about how to really get the house open, other than we're going to work with the Friends group, which has been only, so far, a couple phone calls in 6 months. A proposal was given to staff before Phil Lewis even was hired, was given to staff, a proposal on how the Friends group could maybe start the dialogue about how to manage the house. Nobody on this commission, no one on the commission at the time that I've been on the commission for the past 8 years, had any belief that the city was going to manage the house, that the city was going to have any plan for the house, that the city was going to do anything to staff the house. That's why the Friends Group was created. That's why the Friends Group made a plan. That's why the Friends Group responded to the strategic plan from 2015 and gave it to staff earlier at the end of last year. So my question is, the dialogue of how to move forward should have taken place. Now, the Friends Group hasn't really, right now the Friends Group's the only chance that the house is going to be open ever. But no dialogue has been taking place, really, with the updates on the walls. The last I heard, the walls were going to be taken care of the first of the year, and they were only going to be over the rough part of the house, not the whole house. And so there's some things that I'm really frustrated by. And I think that the fact that this commission hasn't even seen the proposal, the draft proposal, until you see that, I don't even know, there's no effort being made to get the house open unless you see that. And the question is, when can we open the house? The second that this commission says open the house. It's up to you.
The strategic plan you're talking about is the one that was done by the architect?
No, so the strategic plan was this document that the
Yeah,
city
we have
actually
that.
right. So that you have. In response to this, because this basically says, here's some ideas of how the house could be structured. Gives an example, which I think is appropriate, which we all talked about the End of the Oregon Trail Interpretive Center. The End of the Oregon Trail Interpretive Center is run by the Clackamas Heritage Partners in Historic Oregon City. The city doesn't staff it. The city doesn't have a plan. The city doesn't care about the belongings in the building. They have handed that over. So those questions really, I think apply to this. And so the Friends Group created a draft proposal saying this is how we see the Friends Group running and managing the house. There was some questions that obviously aren't answered because there hasn't been a dialogue with the city to narrow down some of those legalities and who does what.
So
but
where
the
is
fact,
that report? Why don't we
it's
have
with
it in
staff.
front of us?
It's been there 6 months or more.
So
And it should have been put on the attachment for tonight. I have no clue why that's.
Okay. So why is that not part of our package tonight?
So I do have the proposal from the Friends Group. It was a draft proposal that was provided to me. Again, as we were looking at actually having a facility to open or not and prioritizing my workload, the only individuals that are working on this currently, Denise and myself, and again balancing the other items that I had on my plate, knowing that we didn't have a facility that was budgeted to finish the construction piece of the project. I had not had an opportunity to wrap back around with the Friends Group to initiate those conversations.
Well, I get that, but why isn't the base report part of our package so that we at least had something to talk about tonight?
The proposal from the Friends Group?
Yeah.
Because there were still items in there that I would like to discuss with the Friends Group in order to make sure that we're on the same page.
So it wasn't
I
final.
can.
I know.
You could have done
I
it for the last 6 months.
I get that. Hang on. Please stay, Commissioner Smith. I don't think we're done with this conversation yet. A month ago, when Commissioner Smith came, we said we were going to put together a work session and talk about this.
Yes.
But without all of the basic documents, how is that possible for us to have a discussion? I mean, I have to agree with Commissioner Smith here. I don't know any more about what we might do to operate this facility than I did when I took office 2 years ago. So, I sense the frustration. It seems like we spent, $700,000?
Yeah.
A lot of money. And it harkens back to my earlier time on the city commission when we built a fire station knowing we couldn't staff it, knowing we couldn't open it. So while I didn't have any responsibility as far as what we did to get the Ermitanger to this point, I do think that since we've spent nearly $750,000 of the public's money, of the citizens of Oregon City's money, that we have an obligation to do something with that resource. I think the manager's hearing my drift.
Question.
Commissioner Ide.
So, question: the contract that for the drywallers and the painters, is there like a term limit on there? In as far as it's supposed to be, usually on those contracts, there's like a beginning and an end. Do you know what the end date is on that?
The end date is June 30th. We have 2 contractors in there, or in the contract as subs. So the drywaller comes first, however long it takes him, because there are some tricky areas for him to work with. Then we have to get, because the drywaller's not giving a specific date, we can't get a schedule for the painter until they get closer to the end. That means that the painter is then obligated to come in and finish before the June 30th time frame. In the meantime, we don't want to hold anybody up for making money. We want them to be working and productive in their business. We want to hold them up and not give them time to do their jobs.
So if it's structurally sound, and if the weekend of the 23rd and 4th or whatever that is that you were looking at, if the Friends Group was able to make arrangements for just a weekend opening, whether it's painted or not, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be completely painted. Would that work if they were able to, if the Friends Group was able to come up with a plan, an operational plan for that weekend so that it could be open, and then the painters come back and finish, and then the work continue on for the strategic planning or operational planning.
If I could, Mayor Holliday, Commissioner Ida, are we thinking about the place might be open, but it's going to be furnished? See, this is quite a.
Well,
We've
would
got
it need
quite a
to be
project
furnished?
here.
It wouldn't necessarily
So if it
need
doesn't
to
have
be
to be
furnished.
furnished, we're just a little walk through there, and you can kind of see it under construction and stuff. But I guess my concern is that we always want to get it open. Number two is if it happens to be this Rose Festival period and stuff, that's fine. Otherwise, we can do it next year, Rose Festival, and be really prepared for it. But if it happens to happen this year, great. But number one is to get the thing open.
I'm back to my original frustration here, and that is that I've built houses. You could build a house from the foundation up and have it furnished in 90 days. So I'm a little confused why it would take us, 8 weeks to put some sheetrock and some paint in there. And I get the fact that maybe there are some technicalities in the sheetrock, but I've seen hundreds of miles of sheetrock go up, and there are only so many complications you can find. I mean, corners, that kind of stuff. So I think maybe there has not been enough of an emphasis from the city commission to staff that we need to get this thing moving along. I don't see any point in opening in late June, just like we were to walk over there right now and walk in the door. I mean, if we're going to do it, let's have the furniture, or at least a certain amount, so that there's something of interest there when you walk in the door. And I don't see how that is A, complicated, or B, all that expensive. So unless somebody can tell me why we can't do it, let's do it. Do I have any argument from my fellow commissioners? Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yeah, no arguing for me. I'm all for it. Let's do it.
Okay.
So, just for clarification to commission, if there are budgetary requirements in order to get the property into a position where we could open prior to the fiscal year, we have already reallocated resources within the Community Services Department to find the additional funding that would be required to do the construction phase. Would it be?
What's the worst case? The worst case scenario on a contingency? Another $10,000?
Probably right around there.
Can you squeeze up $10,000 somewhere, Mr. Parno? Thank you. We don't vote in work sessions. Correct. Somebody threw a vote thing on my screen. Okay. Is there anything else for me, Commissioner Smith?
No, I would just be, my concern though is that if we have the conversation about this construction process should have happened with the Friends Group so that they knew what was going on and could have had this dialogue.
Excellent.
Because what's going to happen now is if they start construction tomorrow and it's a big mess, then why are we doing it now? The house could be open. We could get through that weekend. So I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot by not having that dialogue and now have the possibility of that weekend the house is a mess because it's under construction and staff saying we can't open it.
I don't think that's going to be the case. Like I said, my experience in construction, I think they can get that work done. At least the work on the ground floor. Maybe we don't let people upstairs. I don't know, but I'm convinced that staff can work out the minor details to make that occur. My other question is, who is this nebulous Friends Group? I mean, is that it?
I think they're listed right here.
So I guess we continually build the wheel over again here in Oregon City. If we have Clackamas Heritage Partners, Why aren't we folding this in with that organization? Or the question is why? Why are we building a whole new organization to take care of one little thing instead of trying to consolidate some of these things so that it has some kind of financial and
Because there hasn't been a tourism plan, and that's what is in the process. If we could get the RFP out and
that's been in the process for 25 years.
No.
They're shaking their head. Yes.
Well, but I mean, as far as a formal tourism plan, it was approved, and now we've got the RFP out, even though it wasn't real successful. Another one is in the midst of being put out, and so there's more effort right now going on that way. And I think that when you look at the big picture of what's happening in tourism in Oregon City with the Willamette Falls Legacy Project, and if you haven't been out to the end of the Oregon Trail in a long time, you need to go out there and see all the amazing changes. The Ermitinger, on the rise. I mean, all these really great places are happening, and the plan, even though the Ermitinger Friends Group could still exist, of course, there should be down the road a connection between all of those things so that there can be continuity among
consistency,
right,
continuity.
so that
Budget.
the visitors to our city can come in and know where to go.
Okay. I think this horse is dead. Anything further, Commissioner O'Donnell?
Well, in my mind, we do one of two things. We either meet with the contractors on site and with the Ermitinger House people, and we agree that we're going to get this done in a timely manner, or we postpone it so that we're not in disarray. And either way, we can open the house one way or the other. Either the work's completed or the work is suspended until after we open the house and do the Rose Festival thing.
Well, when you say we, I always try to keep the line fairly bright between the commission and staff. So I
agree.
I think staff has direction. I would expect that we will hear something by the beginning of next week from the manager on where we're at on that and what that's going to look like. I don't
Sounds good to me.
I don't think that's an unreasonable request.
And by open, do you mean a temporary open for June for this event, or a permanent open?
I mean, a temporary open. It won't be ready for a permanent open. And we decide to what level do we open it? Do we furnish it? Do we unfurnish it? Do we partially furnish it? How much access to the house do we allow? Does the city, does the staff complete the construction before we open it, or put that construction off? We just need to determine what level of presentation we're going to make and at least get that done. The first step is the hardest.
Okay. So I have, again, literally been working on this it's been sitting out there, not necessarily working on it from the time I was elected mayor. At the very beginning of that time, we had a new brewery open in Oregon City, Coin Toss, who offered to craft a specific beer around this event. I just met with Mayor Wheeler a couple of weeks ago. He's willing to come out like Mayor Hales was and recreate the coin toss. We can make this something, but the critical question right now is, can we get the construction done? So let's find that out, and then we can have another discussion in a week or two.
But
Commissioner Shaw.
we do need to keep this crew going that we've got on board. As we were talking about, it's hard to get people in here to do these little jobs.
I don't disagree.
So tomorrow, we're not going to stop what we've got going on construction-wise, because we won't get anybody back.
No, I agree with you there.
Okay.
I just don't. I think the concerns about timing are a little overblown. I think the only real thing you have to make sure of is that somebody is paying attention to whether the contractor shows up every day. And if they aren't showing up, then somebody needs to be getting on the phone and going, why the heck aren't you here? If that turns into a 2 or 3 days of not showing up, then we say, okay, we're going to have to look somewhere else. But that's, again, a management thing that doesn't have to do with the commission. It has to do with staff. So I'm putting enough on you guys. We're done with this. I'm done with it.
They're
Okay,
done with it.
moving on. We have an update from, Mr. Lewis is in the barrel all day today, huh? 17-234, proposed park and cemetery shop concept plan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commission. So before you today is a report on the need for a community services department for parks and recreation for the park operations facility. As you're aware, we currently have a facility that has been red tagged and is unable to be used by our park operations staff. The purpose of this meeting is to receive direction from Commission with the proposed park and cemetery shop concept. So current conditions, again, the main structure that we're discussing today is our park operations building, which has been red tagged. It's around 1,300 square feet. Was used previously for mixed use, office, storage, shop space.
When was it built?
It was built in the 1950s. And again, was built when it was owner operated, managed, and this was their shop, basically, for the property. So it is, in addition to being red tagged and unable to be occupied by staff, not ideal for the use that we would in a modern working force being able to use a facility. In addition to the park shop facility, we have some restroom facilities on site, which service the cemetery, 55-acre cemetery. We host multiple community events on site, including Families of Murdered Children event. We're the regional hub for that group, in addition to Memorial Day events and other larger scale events, and these are the only publicly accessible facilities for restrooms. They're not ADA accessible. They have a lip on them, and as you can imagine, even the day-to-day dealing with burials and families that might have limited mobility, it is an issue. Currently, because of the red tagged facility, we have a rented pod unit on site. It does have, again, very limited space. We had to move around a lot of our storage and a lot of our equipment in order to continue to do the work that we do in the parks and cemetery operations. The unit includes a small locker area, one restroom, which is above ground and temporary in nature, and then a small space for computers. So as we go through the proposal, and in a second I will turn it over to Denise to speak a little bit more about the request before Commission. To recap, we have two structures that we will be proposing to demolish. The larger shop structure, which you will see in the middle on the left-hand side, the smaller restroom facility building, which is just to the right of that, and then the new park ops facility, which is that dotted red line, will go roughly in that area between what you see on the top as the current office space and on the bottom as a current shop outbuilding for equipment storage.
So you're going to maintain the current shop building?
Yeah, so the on the next screen you'll see the existing shop in the lower left-hand corner, which on the previous screen is that unit down there in the lower left-hand corner. So those spaces will be maintained. The middle facility buildings will be removed, and the new park ops facility will go in its place. And I'll have Denise speak a little bit about the process of working with the consultant to determine scope and cost.
So I started working with LRS Architects a little over, almost about a year and a half now. Trying to just get a conceptual size and what we could use feasibly, multi-purpose, and encompass our costs so that we are being as responsible with our money as possible. The lunchroom is also going to be our conference room and meeting room, and that would house all of our staff, which are 6 full-time maintenance guys, 1 manager, 2 office staff, and up to 5 seasonals. So this
In the facility.
So that lunchroom facility would be able to encompass use by all the staff. Now, the office staff and our manager will still reside in the existing office building, but our maintenance staff would still utilize that as where their computers and desk space would be. And it would be shared desk space. Because we don't have locker rooms, and currently you kind of have to separate your lunchroom and your locker room. So we've done that in this concept. We've also incorporated next to the restrooms within the facility an office for our building facilities maintenance personnel. So she currently does not have a permanent home, and with the annex being renovated, she's been in that building. She'll have to move. So we've actually included that space and a little bit more shop space than our original concept. The public restroom facility is also encased into this building because it would be less cost in all of the utility connections and walls, and a second mob for construction if we did a secondary site. So we tried to encompass everything all in one shot. This does just house our existing size of staff.
Well, do you anticipate, I mean, the cemetery is sort of a linear operation. I wouldn't anticipate that we're going to have a substantially larger staff sometime in the future, would you?
This is
for all.
I was pointing this at the manager for a reason.
So this is for all the parks staff, our maintenance staff, not just those who are just at the cemetery. So
Okay.
it's citywide staff would be located in this facility.
So you theoretically could anticipate us needing more space in the future.
Theoretically, I guess we'd have to think about, if we hire on somebody, does that reduce the number of seasonals that we need, et cetera, et cetera.
As another park is being considered and Oregon City growing, it just makes sense that, I mean, to me at least, that there would be additional need for space. And
I assume we're getting the dollars at some point?
Yes.
Okay.
is there a shower in here?
Yes.
not
I'm
in
looking.
No.
not in the rough concept, no.
Oh, okay.
That again, so what you're seeing is not likely what we will build because this is called a concept or schematic design.
Right.
So this is the kind of the 10,000 viewpoint of what it would kind of cost us and what we would need as far as spatial analysis. So what you see here doesn't actually include the shower, but we would be looking to include a shower and potentially housing our chemical and fuel containment areas with venting, just so that we're compliant with codes.
What's the necessity for a shower?
Our guys use chemicals, so if we needed an emergency shower, we have to have one on site. Plus, if the guys were out working in the stuff and they've made contact with it and they want to shower and change into street clothes,
Okay.
that gives them that ability.
Yeah.
It's a safety factor.
Okay, so couple things. I noticed on that plan, Denise, you had that workbench area, but I think you had a roll-up door there too.
We do.
And you guys know all about this stuff. I'm trying to just, I don't want to second guess your stuff, but I didn't know if that would be easier if you just used the a big roll-up door and got rid of that small one there where you could actually have more working area and stuff. So just food for thought. Like I said, that's, you guys know what you're doing.
Are you talking about getting rid of the man door?
No, this
No.
door,
8-footer.
there's a little smaller roll-up door
Oh,
right
okay.
there. So anyway, that's just my thought. So
And again, this is that 10,000 foot level.
Yes.
We'll kind of dive into those components when
Okay.
we move forward.
And the last two is kind of, if we could look at if we ever had to expand on this building, let's kind of look at that as you go through your next phase of this. And the big one is, I think we need to look at possibly purchasing that property that's next to this building that we don't own. I don't know if you have the picture of that, at least, I don't know if you got to see that.
The big house?
No, there's empty property right here. We got the rest of the cemeteries here, and there's just land right here that's
Just
not
behind the
ours.
existing shops.
Yeah, so in your packet, there's an overview of the
Yes, I
cemetery
didn't know if
property,
you had
which
that.
includes...
You don't have that available on here.
Not on the slides,
It's in the
no.
back though,
It's
right?
the-
It is in
here.
the packet.
It's this one.
So the
It's this
the
one.
outline is the cemetery,
This is
and you'll
for
notice
sale.
a sliver of property.
It's for sale?
Hmm. Actually, let me get you a better one. Oh, that same
Cemetery
one, sorry.
property attachment would give you a good view.
So anyway, I don't know if you've explored that or that's on the agenda at some point in the
This
future.
little
That might be
piece is
something we
for
need to
sale.
look at.
And there's
So
at
with
the
this-
I
back.
don't know if you explored that.
It's right there.
Oh,
No, the other
Commissioner
house, the
O'Donnell.
old house.
Oh, it's right there, right at the top of the green.
So it includes the house in that piece?
And that whole piece.
Okay.
And see, this is
What do they want
ours.
for it?
We can bring that back to you in an executive session and talk about property acquisition potential.
That's a good point. All right.
it's pretty smooth.
So with this existing schematic concept, what we were looking to, without any additional properties, is the option to build off the back wall where the existing office is in a future concept. That existing back wall between the existing office and the proposed new building could be the center point to build an extension off of that into the lawn properties moving forward of the existing office. So there's potential for expansion with the building design concept. There's always that opportunity to, work with what we have or work with future opportunities and properties.
So let's flip to the next slide. So you're talking about $450,000 in construction costs, and then another $150,000 plus or minus. Where are we going to get the money from?
We've been working through the budget. These are something that's been identified as a need. This is going to be a one-time capital expenditure from the general fund.
Okay.
And as we go through the budget hearings, this will be something that we'll be discussing.
So this is for the next biennium.
Yes, we don't have any appropriated funds at this point to do this work, so this will be a discussion point at the budget. But it was identified during our goal setting as something to try to work into the proposed budget.
So I guess my question becomes, and it's going to be the same thing I'm going to talk about with the police station, is if we're going to build a building, then we need to build a building for 50 years, not for 20 years, because it's way cheaper to build it in today's dollars than to add on or build it later, 20 years from now, when we should have anticipated that, the city's at 35,000 now. I would guess somewhere in 20, 25 years, we're probably going to be closer to 70. So, with 70,000 people, you're going to have more parks, you're going to have more parks maintenance, you're going to have all those kinds of things. So maybe we should talk about and think about building this thing a third or a half again as big as we actually need right now. Doesn't that fiscally make more sense to do it in today's dollars rather than in, $2050?
Certainly, it
Okay.
does.
And I realize that there's a bunch of
There's going to be
constraints about it.
trade-offs associated
Sure.
with that with the budget
Sure.
in our current situation.
Questions, comments? Mr. O'Donnell?
No, I've read along with it. I saw the initial 442, and I see the additional with the 20% contingency estimate. I think the only good deal on there is the secure fencing gate, which is 3,000 square feet at $12 a square foot. That only comes to $2,000, so we should take that.
Okay. Remember, these are 50,000 foot estimates.
The only comment I have right now is having walked through the buildings the other day and experienced what all of the park staff has to go through every day.
they needed this several years ago, and so I think it's like imminent that something needs to be done soon. Whether or not there's the possibility of purchasing property and doing, there still needs to be some. They need to be, the situation needs to be fixed really soon, and
Well,
that as far as how you can come up with a plan to do that, but I'm for getting something done soon.
well, I think we're all in
It's gotta be done.
in that vein. We're certainly not going to get it done in this biennium because
No, I understand.
we don't have money in the budget.
I understand
So, we're about to start to go through the budget process. So we'll have those discussions there. Is there any more to this presentation?
I guess I just need a little bit of I mean, is there? I guess I'd love to hear the other commissioners' thoughts on trying to oversize the building. And I completely agree that money is cheaper today than it's going to be tomorrow. I also wish I had 35,000 more residents of tax revenue to help fund some of this. That's my only. I'm just cautious.
I understand.
So I guess I'd like to hear from the other commissioners how far you would like to, or what you'd like to see. Is it build this bigger? Is it come back with a secondary, the existing in a proposal to see the cash difference?
That's where I was going, Mr. Manager, was obviously, this is what you need to make it work today. And so we have that proposal, but it'd be nice to see what the bigger picture would be besides this. And then what that would cost, rough numbers and stuff. So I'd like to see both of those because we don't know what this budget's going to look like really. And but I agree, we should be looking at the big picture, and it's kind of, in this
When
case,
we built this building, it was too small for the people we were putting in this building. It's so tunnel vision.
I know.
That.
Well, we're kind of beyond that. Look at our library and look what we're doing at the police station. So we learn.
Okay,
We
all right.
learn.
I'm just trying to make sure we continue to learn.
I noticed that. So, but anyway, that's what I'd like to see is, you've got a proposal now here. Maybe it's the 10-year or 20-year plan, and we're thinking about the 50-year plan, and at least show where that addition would be when we decide to do that in the future if we do. So.
And I would like to have more information on that property next door.
Yeah.
I'd like to comment again.
No.
I think if we're trying to design this under the current constraints, and they're the constraints of the property, maybe we need to consider that, removing that constraint with the addition of additional property, and then taking a second look at it in terms of that 50-year view.
I must have missed something. Can you say that again, Commissioner?
We're looking at this current building, and the constraint is the amount of property we have to place the building on. Where can we put it? And if we were to remove that constraint by the addition of some more property, then we could possibly refocus the effort on a building for a 50-year plan instead of a 20-year plan.
Okay. Yeah.
It might change the whole complexion of the building.
Yeah, I see that. The property is only one of the constraints. We still have the budgetary.
It's not the
constraint.
biggest of my concerns or the constraints, to be perfectly honest with you.
But we have the most fantastic finance director who will somehow find us the money that we need.
We call him Mr. Magic. Yeah.
Well,
I don't think
and
there's
I don't know.
So I do feel like I need to be a little. I am. I think we've, in my opinion, we've pushed this pretty far in terms of how to fund this and come up with a reasonable budget for the next biennium. So I am concerned there, and this isn't a matter of finding. I think this is a matter of trade-offs at this point with the budget that we're going to bring to you in May.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that in the budget process.
Certainly.
And just a comment on during the tour, Denise and Phil were saying that the parking was such that the park staff had to go over to the Mountain View
Reservoir.
The reservoir, and drive their own vehicles over there, get into their city vehicles, and then go to wherever they need to work in their city vehicles. So they can't even park their own equipment at the cemetery site.
But this building doesn't resolve that issue, does it?
No.
No.
We do
that's the point I'm making.
garner
Okay.
a few more spots. We didn't really look at the parking in total because of our budgetary constraints that we were looking at in this concept design. However, this is concept, it's on paper, it's something that we can produce and take a look at as far as what that would be in dollars and, potential phasing.
Okay. Is there anything else in this presentation?
No, there is one more slide, but it's
Okay.
basically a lot of the things that we already discussed
Right.
as far as the benefits of utilizing the property.
Okay. Questions, concerns?
No, thanks, guys.
Mr. Manager, you have anything for communications?
Yes, one update tonight from Ms. Riggs.
Thank you.
Ms. Riggs?
Yes. So I just wanted to let you know that as part of the Commission's goal number 4, a priority was information governance. And one of the objectives to achieving this priority was to create a paperless office by installing a public kiosk in the front office here at City Hall. So thank you to the hard work of Jamie Reed. That has been completed. There is a kiosk out here for the public.
So thank you to the hard work of Jamie Reed. That has been completed.
Frank!
There is a kiosk out here at
Mute.
Holland.
Hang up, Frank. Frank, mute your computer. Thank you.
That was awesome getting to hear myself again, though.
Kind of bizarre.
So this public online access allows the public to come into City Hall, and they can use this for business license applications, for public records requests, utility billing start and stop services, viewing the OC maps and using the OC request, and then much, much more is available right here in this corner here. So
But
take
it
a
is
look at it.
firewalled somehow to make sure that
It absolutely is.
some 19-year-old whiz kid can't come in and break into our system.
Sure, it absolutely is. We have double, triple, bazillion checked it,
Okay.
and we're good to go. So take a look at that on your way out. Thank you.
Congratulations for meeting one of the objectives in your strategic plan.
Yeah.
So I have a question to follow up with that, and it doesn't have anything to do with the kiosk, but there was a thread on one of the social media sites over the last couple of weeks about if somebody wants to find out about what's going on at a particular thing in planning, how difficult it is to find that information. You know, there's multiple drop-down menus, and you have to know all the numbers and all that stuff. And I'm just a simple guy, right? So I'm thinking, why couldn't we have a map that somebody could pull up, and you could make it bigger or smaller depending on what you're looking for, that would have one of those little balloon buttons for an address for the particular site they're talking about, that would contain all of the documents. So a person, average Joe, 55-year-old guy who's not a computer whiz, could go there and go, I want to know what's happening, down the block for me. There's something going on. You click on that and you can see the application, where it is in the process, all that stuff. How difficult is that to do?
It's already there, isn't it?
There. No.
Wouldn't it be?
It's not there.
Wouldn't it be awesome if staff already had created something like that? I think
Is it there?
It is
Because
there.
I've had several people go, I try to find stuff, and there's all these drop-down menus. It's really hard to find, the information that we're looking for. So
I bet you
walk me
someone
through
really
it then.
sharp
How about a
like Laura could
demonstration
actually
sometime?
demonstrate it for us.
Okay, I'll let her do that to me offline.
Yeah.
All right.
Is that something, I mean...
No, I mean if it does what if it does what then I can go back and say, hey, you guys just didn't go to the right place. Here's where you go. Click on the button; it'll tell you what's going on.
It does have a lot of activity on it. So, when you look at the map, there's lots of things. As you zoom in, it gets closer and
Sure.
closer. But yeah, a lot of information there, a lot of content. Yeah.
Oh, she's just
Laura's
chomping
just
at the bit. to
Right
get
here,
out
right here, right here. Oh, do you want to bring it up? Right here?
No, it's fine. She's good right there.
Good evening. Laura Turway, Community Development Director. So we do have a map that has all our projects, and it's a really neat map because you can filter by planning division projects, you could filter by public works projects. It's up online. I did see the email you're referring to, and it was sort of the most complicated way to get to it. So as all things on our website, it's in a spot, and there's 9 ways to get to that spot.
Is one of those ways on like the front page of the website?
Yeah, it's called City Projects. So if you go under the How Do I, that's how I get there, under City Projects. We've also added a direct link to it from the Planning Division homepage, which is one thing that we did not have. So the map includes all development applications. As I stated before, they go up there the day that those applications get noticed to the neighbors. So it's before you see those signs on people's properties. It includes the complete development application when it's deemed complete. And it includes, so you can look at all the drawings, you can see who the developer is, you can look up their phone numbers if you want to call and ask them about anything. So it is a complete record. One thing that we did do is the search function on the website, not in the map itself, but if you go to type in a file number, it was having some problems connecting that to the file number. So IT is working on getting a new search tool to find the file. Or you could just Google.
Oh, there we go.
On Google,
Look,
yeah.
a map.
So you can click on it, and then you can bring up the specific
click?
plans.
Well,
It was one click.
And then
The hover, how do I?
right there, City Project.
there is also a link to this
Click on
map
one.
now on our brand new blue land use signs as well. So you can go to orcity.org/projects, and it's listed on the signs when you're out and about town.
Brand new sign.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate the clarification. I stand corrected.
Point taken.
Is that it?
That's all we have tonight.
Okay. Anything for the good of the order? Then we're adjourned. Good night, Frank.